Hello and welcome to Heartstock Radio. I am your host, Carol Murphy. Today, our guest is Thi Hien Nguyen. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to practice and get better at that, I promise. And she's going to be with us in just a moment. She's with SpaceConneX. Very excited for us to have our conversation with Hien. So remember that you can email us at heartstockradio@gmail.com. And we'd love to hear from you, especially if you'd like to be our guest here on the program and you're using business as a force for good. This is Heartstock. In just a moment, we will be right back. Thanks for listening. Welcome back. This is Heartstock Radio. I'm your host, Carol Murphy, and Daniel Hogan is in the studio. Today, our guest is Thi Hien Nguyen, and she is with SpaceConneX. Hi, Hien. How are you?
Hi, Carol. Good morning. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, it is such a pleasure to have you here on the show. Can you tell our listeners what is SpaceConneX and give us a little intro? What is it that you do there?
I have several titles, but that is one of it. SpaceConneX is born out of the need of impacting beyond the local health. I'm a CEO founder. I'm a longevity entrepreneur, and I actually run a high performance space for the past 10 years. That's a leading performance facility focused on longevity, renowned for its functional medicine approach, nutritional lifestyle, and training methods. This is what I still do in my job. And at some point I thought, how can I scale impact? So I sat with it. I started to ask questions. Where am I with my growth, and where would I like to lead and scale my impact? And this is how I ended up with founding SpaceConneX. It's a think tank. We work on several projects to impact the future of humanity on and off Earth with space technologies.
Sounds absolutely fascinating. Can you maybe say just a little bit about, maybe give us the list of projects that you're currently working on?
Sure. The past 2 years, I was elected as a United Nations Space for Women mentor. That was a role that women around the globe, about 36 women, I can't recall how many, from all countries work together to empower women and girls for STEM and space careers, as we are still a minority in space and technology-related careers. So we paved the way for that to give equal access and accessibility as women and girls for this very male-dominant industry. I'm also a turned futurist and space consultant. I work as a philanthropist. I invest into longevity and space endeavors. And I'm currently co-authoring a book on health technologies for longevity. So what has happened? I think I worked on health for so long that I kind of worked on the outer shell of the human body, so that I now, if that makes sense, went from the outer body to the inner space. So I think it's very important that we also talk about space, science, and the convergence of consciousness or spirituality. Yeah, so I thought I went from the inner space then literally to the outer space and draw the line. Okay, how can technology, how can we use that for the betterment of humankind?
Yes, and I have so many questions to ask you about that. But before we go there, I'm wondering, how did you end up in Germany, and where did this journey begin? Where did you go to school?
Yeah, And my heritage is Vietnamese, but I'm a Laos born, so Southeast Asian was born. My parents immigrated to Germany. We originally wanted to immigrate into the United States, but somehow that didn't work out. So I was very little. I was 16 months old, and they just took me, and we lived in refugee camps, in Thailand. And I almost didn't make it. I had the typical diarrhea as a child if you don't have access to clean water or enough food. I remember my mother shared with me, she said, look, you were the last child, there was not enough breast milk. I bent over, I gave you puddle water. I had diarrhea, chronic diarrhea. My mother thought I wouldn't make it. So I think maybe there was an unconscious trauma there that I always knew I wanted to contribute to, health. And so I did. Fast forward, I don't consider myself as a very talented. My parents gave us access to education. That's why we immigrated. My siblings are very successful in their own ways, and I became an entrepreneur. I was always very driven. I was always very driven by purpose and passion, and I was always invested into self-actualization. And I started to ask questions, and so I ended up the way how I ended up. I studied physical therapy because that was a way for me to express myself kinesthetically. And so that evolved, as I said, through my body, working on my outer health to the inside of my body, more into the inner space, spirituality. And then I knew we are now at the edge of, a radical transformation. And I started to ask questions, why is this all this hype about space? What's behind it? Is there truly a purpose, or is it just something cool and sexy technology in space, So, and this is how, through my own experience, the mission found me, I would say. I didn't go out there and try to make my billions in space, It's just something who I am and who I resonate with. I'm an evolutionary leader. I'm attracted to newness. I'm attracted to technology. And I guess this is my path. And now we're here.
Where did you go to school and what did you study? You mentioned physical therapy, but I would imagine that there was a lot of science background in there.
Yeah, medical. I studied also functional medicine, so nutritionist. I'm also a naturopath. And I studied anything to do with health, well-being, performance, healing. Right now, I'm a lot into sound and healing therapy. I think that's the future of medicine. I'm also working on finalizing an edits of my book about the health democratization and entrepreneurship, the digitization of healthcare for longevity. This is my part. So this is my part about, connecting the dots between health, longevity, and space. Longevity and space by itself, very great business opportunities, that for one point, and two, very complex industry. So part of my purpose is to really make it accessible for anyone, to make it accessible for everyone. I think that's important, because we always hear, why would you want to do the billionaire, spend so much money in space if we have so many, if we have war here, we have health crisis, why are they going to space, And there's a purpose for everything.
Yes. And, we've heard folks like Elon Musk saying that, part of our interest in space is that we are exceeding the capacity of our planet and actually decreasing the capacity of our planet to sustain life. So what's your take on that? Do we need to go to space because planet Earth is not going to be inhabitable? Kind of a...
It's good to have a backup plan. To plan now. This is without being worried, and freaking out. It's better, it's like, Carol, we had this flooding here last year in Germany. It came as a surprise, the same way as it currently is on in Australia. So it's better to have a second home, correct? So it's just a matter of, if you ask the astrophysics and all of these guys, it's just a matter of time, in billions of time. We start working on it now, and it's very exciting. It's realistic. The technology is there. We can stay on the moon this time, and we can go further. That's just the innate curiosity that humanity has. And I do believe Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, I don't think they do it for the money. I think every human being has a natural impulse, to do what they're designed here to do when you're here. I don't think they do it for the money. I mean, they have the money, and we need a lot of money to go there. But after all, it's exciting to have a honeymoon on the moon, and it's a great business opportunity, and it's important that we can sustain life. Maybe we move, as Bezos says, the heavy industry into space so that we can preserve our Earth. And it's personal choice, and we hope that space tourism would be accessible for everyone, not just for the wealthy people, not just for the fit astronauts. Pretty much, if you think about the cell phone, it was only for the president or the king, this amount of data, and now everyone has it. And this is the same way how I think about space and about health, that health should be accessible for everyone.
So I'm wondering, who's been your greatest influences so far? Are there any folks that you can kind of point to that have really had an impact on your path?
I would say my parents, if they didn't decided for us to immigrate, I would be there without an education. And education is, of course, very important. And I would also attribute most of my success to selected mentors and literature that I have chosen, books. When I started to ask for my purpose, what is my purpose in life? I used to run marathon. I used to live in so many countries. I would run and exercise my lungs out to find my purpose. I would walk in New Zealand for days with my backpack, no one around. Eventually, then I found it. I looked at the stars, and I thought I was always something somehow different. Other travelers and friends that did age-appropriate things, I was never interested in that. I was always looking at the stars, and wonder, there must be something greater out there. So I would contribute my mother and my father giving me access to education, holding space for me in terms of empathy and compassion, which is very much needed now in this world, and certainly selected mentors that have paved the way for opportunities that I'd never thought, as someone who has no background in space or has no background in technology.
Mm-hmm. This is a great place for us to take our midway point break. In just a moment, we'll be right back. This is Heartstock. This is Heartstock Radio. I'm your host, Carol Murphy. Today, our guest is Thi Hien Nguyen, and she is with SpaceConneX. We were just talking about the stars, and it's so funny that the timing is impeccable because there's so much information that is coming out nowadays. Essentially, how often we are visited by folks from other planets And yes, this is true. One of our previous guests, Mike Masters, and I hope we have the opportunity to have him on again. We talked about this very subject. And, considering where we are right now, you were saying earlier that we're on the brink of some major changes in our society and our culture. Where do you see us going, and how does that relate to your work?
We are headed towards space. Look at what happened the past 2 years when the health crisis hit. Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin flew to space. They showed us, this is possible. I think if you envision humanity just being right now in the contraction phase, it's like in a pregnancy, the new world is just yet to be born. And everyone, no matter your background, you have a purpose here to contribute to a healthier society and use technology as a resource liberating mechanism, as my mentor Peter Diamandis says. And it's the most exciting, but also a very uncertain time to be alive. That's why it's so important to practice your faith, and that's I think where we can meet, where science, technology, and faith, or God, or however you want to call it, spirituality will converge, and we evolve consciously on the planet, and hopefully with more maturity taking that level of consciousness of Earth. But we are really in the midst of birthing something very, very new. We can face it, we can fear it, or we can have faith. So I have a lot of faith in humanity when we all work together on this.
And you mentioned Peter Diamandis. How has he influenced you? And just kind of inform us a little bit about his influence and what he's up to.
Peter, I was in his community. Peter, since Peter, I have a saying. It says, when you are ready, the right mentor will show up. And that always happened that way. Somehow Peter showed up in my hologram. He has a similar background. He's a physician. He's a physician. He has a medical background, and that explains it. And he was a space enthusiast. Very little did I know that he was also 30 years ago. He founded the International Space University, which I then enrolled while I was in his entrepreneurial community. And so I didn't know he was the founder of it, but then I registered at this 9-week, 3-month program, which is a lot of time to take out of your busy schedule if you run your own business. And so I then started in the space endeavor without a technology background, but that shows us that we live in the most exciting times where everyone is equal if you have enough, and if you hear Peter talking, enough passion, grit, and a healthy community that supports your crazy moonshot. Because no one believed what I did back then. People think I'm too out there, and now everyone talks about space. But that's always like this. First, it's a crazy idea, and then it's always been like that.
Considering how advanced, I don't know, let's see, how can I ask this question? Given the fact that we are visited way more frequently than even that I imagined after really reading and finding out exactly what's going on out there, as frequently as we are visited by more advanced civilizations, how can we catch up? The technologies that we need in order to really participate in communities that are already exploring space way beyond our capacity. How are we going to catch up?
How do we catch up with the aliens, or?
Yeah, whatever you'd like to call them, aliens, extraterrestrials.
Yeah, Carol, that's a good question, because the mainstream media is starting to talk about extraterrestrials, about UFO, and all of these military documents that are going to release, right? I believe, and I think I have never said this publicly, I believe that you know this narrative of alien, that they're bad or good. I think there are civilizations. They've always been with us. They're been with us. They're now with us, and some are good, some are bad. Some showed up in my dreams. This is something, maybe, most of my visions, they come out of my subconscious, and they're very vivid. These dreams. I had the dream like 2017, I believe, that humanity was under attack. It is a very vivid dream. So this is the scenario that we're in now. Okay, so I believe that there's a lot of wisdom in ancient wisdoms, and it gets more and more mainstream. So we now also have a space force. I think the greater plan is. It should be a podcast for another show, but we should be prepared in case we have an encounter. God knows, on the moon, or so it's important for us to be open-minded, and I do believe there's some beings, they are always with us. Some people, they see them, they can't. Some others, they do. But being alone is like saying we are alone in the universe. Is like don't know, a sand corn in on the beach or something. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So, what advice do you have? We probably have about 5 minutes left, and I'm just wondering if you have any advice for other women in particular working in this field.
We're in the 21st century. You have access to anyone. It's just one click away. Is the question whether you're going to be out there, whether you know your impulse, whether you know, and you put yourself out there, whatever you want. I used to fly to see my mentors, book hotels and fly. And today you just meet people on social media, and if people see the value in you, they will commune with you. And you can do many programs online, and I think it's very easy. If you have access to Wi-Fi, you know what you want. It's just in front of your face, the opportunity.
And what does the future hold? What do you anticipate coming down the path?
I'm excited about being alive now, to be the guide for humanity, guide humanity into prosperous futures on and off Earth. So my work will never finish. And I hope in my lifetime I can visit the moon. And it's the most exciting time to be alive, not to be fearful, but just know your purpose. Sing it in the shower every day, and commune with people who support who you are, and your vision, and your crazy moonshot. Go out and share it with the world. Embarrass yourself, get ridiculed, and as long as you know it, when you know it. Nothing, you won't be deviating from critics or dividing into the believers and non-believers. Is something you came here to do, and you'll move forward with conviction, and you'll be successful. That's the future that I'm seeing. I've seen in my dreams the new worlds. They weren't dystopian. Is that how you say, or utopia? Dystopian. They were full of abundancy, and but you must implement. You've got to exercise and execute on your passion. Otherwise, it just sits on the shelf.
Mm-hmm. Is there a single, or maybe one or two key points for humanity to find this non-dystopian, abundant future? What have we missed so far, and how are we going to change to find that?
I think if you want to create something out there, you must go inwards. It's the same as thousands of years ago. The times of authoritarian is over. The great currencies right now is sovereignty, and
You said sovereignty. Got it.
Sovereignty. Yeah.
Sovereignty, health, and
freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom of freedom. For me personally, as an entrepreneur, I like to have my freedom of choice and freedom of resources and freedom of time. And I think deep down we all want to choose where we want to contribute our time and resources in. Of course, hopefully in good causes that not just benefit your own business, but benefit everyone. Well, everyone eventually wins. That's a cool moonshot. But the area of I think as a solopreneur, or we're here for unity. Unity consciousness with unification and if we have the goodness in front of us, you can't go wrong with this. But we fear too much, rather than there's only fear or love. You can choose.
And how might guests find you if they wish to carry on the conversation?
I'm on all social media. LinkedIn is probably the easiest way.
And can you spell your name for us, just to make it a little easier for guests to find you?
My first name is Thi, and my second first name is Hien. It's spelled Thi. The second first name is Hien, and my surname is Nguyen.
Thank you so much for being our guest here on Heartstock and sharing your story. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Carol. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. And this is Heartstock. We shall see you again next week. As usual, peace.
As I went walking that ribbon of highway.
Heartstock Radio is a production of KBMF 102.5 Butte America Radio. Hear our programs every Friday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time via livestream at butteamericaradio.org.
Sparkling sands of the thunder desert, and all around me a voice was sounding. This land was with you and me. When the sun comes shining and I was strolling in the wheat fields waving and the dust clouds rolling, the voice was chanting as the fog was lifting. This land was with you and me. As I went walking, I saw a sign there, and on the sign it said, "No trespassing." But on the other side